Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to understanding complex topics, and today we're really getting into something important: the connection between what we eat and ADHD.
It's a huge topic.
Yeah, it really is. There's just so much information out there, so much noise. Our mission today is simple: cut through it all, look at the latest science, and give you the key takeaways on nutrition and ADHD.
That's right. And it's crucial because while ADHD is definitely complex, genetics, environment, all that plays a role, we're seeing more and more evidence that lifestyle factors, especially diet, can really make a difference.
A modifiable difference, which is key.
Exactly. Food can influence behavior, focus, overall well-being. We're going to explore how that actually works based on the research.
Okay, let's start big picture then. We hear eat healthy all the time. But what does a healthy pattern actually do when it comes to ADHD risk?
Well, there's some really compelling research here. A major review, a meta-analysis, pulled together data from tons of studies, over 8,800 kids involved.
Wow, that's a lot of data.
It is, and it found pretty clearly that sticking to what they called a healthy pattern, lots of veggies, fruits, legumes, fish, that kind of thing, it significantly lowered the risk of having ADHD.
Lowered by how much?
By 37%, which is, pretty remarkable just from the overall dietary quality.
That is significant. So that's the protective side. What about the less healthy patterns, the stuff we probably eat more often than we should?
Right, the flip side. That same huge analysis looked at the Western diet. Think lots of red meat, refined grains like white bread, processed meats, those hydrogenated fats.
Okay.
Following that pattern was linked to a 92% increased risk of ADHD.
92%. That's huge.
It's a massive difference. And then there's the junk food pattern. Sugary drinks, desserts, salty snacks, fast food. That one was linked to a 51% increased risk.
So the big takeaway is these overall patterns, the whole way we eat, really matters. It's not just one single food.
Exactly. The broad choices seem to have a profound impact.
Okay, that sets the stage. Now, let's zoom in a bit. Something parents worry about a lot: artificial food colorings. What did our deep dive find there? Because it sounds concerning.
It is concerning. First off, these colors add zero nutritional value. Zero. Their only job is to make processed food look more attractive, basically to boost sales.
Right. Purely cosmetic.
Purely cosmetic. But studies are linking them directly to health issues, including behavioral changes in kids. And this isn't just kids with ADHD. It can affect kids without a diagnosis, too.
Interesting. So it's a broader effect.
It seems to be. But children with ADHD or autism spectrum disorder might be especially vulnerable. Sometimes they have more restrictive eating habits, right? They might gravitate towards those brightly colored processed foods more often.
Which can then cause other nutritional problems too, I imagine.
Absolutely. Developmental and nutritional challenges can pile up.
Can you give some examples, like which specific colors are we talking about and what do scientists think they're doing?
Sure. Take tartrazine, that's yellow number 5. It's been flagged for potential links to cancer-related activity, and it might even interfere with absorbing zinc, which is crucial.
Oh.
Red number 40 has been linked in some studies to issues in the kidneys, stomach, and lungs. And erythrocene, or red number 3, that one has evidence suggesting it directly messes with neurodevelopment.
How so?
Well, the thinking is it might amplify ADHD symptoms, impact thinking, learning, memory. The proposed ways this happens include interfering with dopamine release in the brain, causing nutritional deficiencies like that zinc issue, or maybe even triggering histamine release like an allergic reaction.
Wow. That's powerful stuff for just food coloring. So practically speaking, what can families do?
Well, one study suggested that almost a third of kids with ADHD might see benefits just from cutting out synthetic dyes like blue number 1 and blue number 2.
A third. It's a lot.
It is, and it's a concrete step. It's also really important to know these dyes aren't just in candy and snacks.
Right, you mentioned that earlier. Where else should people look?
Check labels on kids' over-the-counter medicines. Pain relievers, cough syrups, even those gummy vitamins can have high concentrations of red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, blue 2. Sometimes the amounts can actually push past the recommended daily limits.
That's definitely something to be aware of. Okay, what about the other big suspect? Sugar. Does it really cause hyperactivity in ADHD, or is it more complicated?
Sugar is. Yeah, it's complex. The evidence is a bit mixed, honestly. On one hand, sugary foods, soft drinks, candy, they're often linked with hyperactive behaviors. You get that quick blood sugar spike, maybe an adrenaline rush.
The classic sugar high.
Kind of. But then some really large studies haven't found a direct causal link between consistently eating a lot of sugar and actually developing ADHD in the first place.
So what does that suggest?
It suggests that for some people, maybe the high sugar intake is more of a result of having ADHD. Maybe impulsivity leads to reaching for sweets or using it for quick energy rather than sugar being the root cause of the ADHD itself.
Ah, okay. So it could be correlation, not necessarily causation for the disorder itself, but still impacting behavior.
Exactly. It's often part of that broader junk food pattern we talked about, which is linked to higher risk. It's probably not helpful, but maybe not the primary villain for causing ADHD for everyone.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've got patterns, we've got additives, sugar's complicated. Where do we go for practical strategies? You mentioned something called the few foods diet. Tell us about that.
Right. This is a more personalized approach. It's basically an elimination diet. You temporarily remove a bunch of common foods that are known potential triggers for sensitivities.
And does it work?
The results are actually pretty striking in some studies. They report significant symptom improvement in up to 60% of patients who try it properly. Some trials even showed a 72% reduction in overall ADHD symptoms among the kids who responded well.
72% reduction. That's incredible.
It is, and many of those kids were able to reduce their medication. Some even stopped it, with guidance from their doctors, of course.
So how do you figure out which foods are the problem for an individual child?
It's a careful process. After that initial elimination phase where you take out things like dairy, maybe wheat, corn, soy, common allergens, you reintroduce foods one by one, very slowly.
And you watch for reactions.
Exactly. You monitor symptoms closely. If hyperactivity or inattention or impulsivity noticeably increases even by just a couple of points on a standard rating scale parents often use after bringing a specific food back.
That's likely a trigger.
That's likely a trigger for that child. Common ones that pop up are things like milk and dairy, cocoa, peanuts, certain grains like wheat and corn.
So this really points towards the idea that for some kids, ADHD symptoms might be driven by food intolerances, like a specific subtype.
That's exactly what the research suggests, a food-related subtype of ADHD, where these sensitivities are a key underlying factor.
And you mentioned it helps with more than just the core ADHD symptoms.
That's another fascinating part. Studies found that when kids responded well to the diet, they also saw real improvements in other issues, things like headaches, asthma symptoms, stuffy noses, tummy troubles, even sleep problems.
So it affects overall health and well-being, too.
Definitely. And what's really promising is the long-term data. Some studies followed kids for years, like 3.5 years, and found that those who initially responded well to the diet maintained those ADHD symptom improvements.
That suggests it's not just a temporary fix, but potentially a sustainable management strategy for those individuals.
Precisely. It highlights how finding and removing those individual food triggers can be a powerful, lasting intervention for certain children.
Okay, moving beyond elimination diets, what about specific nutrients or supplements? We always hear about omega-3s, fish oil. Does that help?
Omega-3s, particularly EPA, which you get from fish oil, have been studied quite a bit. The picture is a bit nuanced. Earlier meta-analyses showed a small but statistically significant improvement in ADHD symptoms.
Small but significant.
Right. So it was often seen as a reasonable add-on strategy, or maybe an option for families hesitant about medication because it generally has very few side effects.
But modest compared to meds.
Yes, generally modest compared to standard medications. However, some more recent big reviews have found the effect to be marginal or maybe even non-existent for the core ADHD symptoms overall.
So the thinking is shifting.
It might be that the benefits are really only noticeable in kids who are actually deficient in omega-3s to begin with. If your levels are okay, adding more might not do much for the ADHD itself.
Okay, that makes sense. What about minerals and vitamins? Anything stand out there? Magnesium, zinc, vitamin D.
Yeah, there's some interest there. Magnesium and vitamin D are often looked at together. One randomized controlled trial that's a good quality study found that giving kids with ADHD both magnesium and vitamin D led to significant improvements. Not necessarily in core hyperactivity intention, but in things like conduct problems, emotional issues, getting along with peers.
So related behavioral improvements.
Exactly. Total difficulty scores went down. Then there's zinc. Some research shows kids with ADHD might have lower zinc levels, and giving zinc supplements has sometimes been linked to better overall ADHD scores. But again, results can vary. It might depend on the population studied or their starting zinc levels.
And iron.
Iron is interesting too. Blood levels of iron aren't always consistently different in kids with ADHD, but some brain imaging studies have found lower iron concentrations, specifically in the thalamus, a key brain region, in kids with the disorder. And we also know that iron deficiency in infancy is linked to a higher risk of developing ADHD later on.
So it sounds like for supplements, there's potential, especially if there's an underlying deficiency, but it's not a guaranteed fix for everyone.
That's a good summary. Testing levels might be helpful in some cases to guide supplementation. It's not usually a first-line treatment on its own, but can be part of a broader approach.
Okay, this is all fascinating. We've covered diet patterns, additives, sensitivities, specific nutrients. What about the gut? There's so much talk about the gut-brain connection now. Does that play a role in ADHD?
It definitely seems to. This is a really hot area of research. Studies are finding differences in the gut microbiota. That's the trillions of bacteria and other microbes living in our digestive system between people with ADHD and those without.
Differences in the types of bacteria or the balance?
Both, potentially. The composition, the diversity, it suggests there might be a link, some kind of communication pathway between the gut and the brain that's relevant to ADHD.
So if the gut bacteria are different, could probiotics adding beneficial bacteria help?
That's the logical next question, and there's some preliminary evidence. It's still early days, though.
What has been seen so far?
Well, one pilot study, a small randomized trial, gave kids with ADHD a specific probiotic strain, Lactobacillus rhamnosus. They found it improved overall quality of life, things related to physical health, social functioning, school, emotions seemed better.
That sounds positive.
It is positive, but it wasn't necessarily a slam dunk for the core ADHD symptoms, like the hyperactivity or inattention that parents and teachers rate. We need bigger, more robust studies to really see if probiotics can consistently move the needle on those core features.
So promising hints on well-being, but the jury's still out on core symptom reduction.
Exactly. It's an area to watch for sure.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Bringing it all together, what's the main message for someone listening trying to navigate this for themselves or their family?
I think the main message is that while nutrition isn't a cure-all, it's absolutely a significant piece of the ADHD puzzle. It's a powerful factor you can modify.
Right. It's empowering to know there are things you can control.
Definitely. Focusing on that overall healthy dietary pattern, whole foods, fruits, vegetables, seems protective. Being really mindful of artificial food colorings is important given the evidence. Understanding the complexity of sugar's role helps too.
And exploring those personalized approaches, like the few foods diet, if sensitivities are suspected.
Yes, for those individuals where food intolerances might be driving symptoms, that personalized approach can be life-changing. It really underscores that nutrition needs to be considered as part of a comprehensive management plan. We're moving towards more tailored interventions.
Absolutely. It highlights just how deeply our brains and bodies are connected to the food we eat. It's not separate. Personalized nutrition can be a really vital tool. So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is, based on this deep dive, what's one small change or one new thing you might explore in your own approach to food and well-being?